So here I am making a quick stop before going to the airport, and I'm making a risk just to be able to show this to you guys, because I was here yesterday and I was just blown away by the architecture. And it's not your typical modern architecture. It's something that was built, you know, a bit older, but not as old as the old buildings, the historical buildings, because this was just built in 1926, and it's called the Grundtvig Church by Jensen Klint. And you can see that they have a small park here. I'm not sure if this was intentional, the promenade over there, but what I'm sure of is that the surrounding structures, if you see that the same material that they use is echoing the church, the main building, and it's meant to enhance the presence of Grundtvig Church from this angle. So these buildings are apartments and some of it are shops, and you can see from my back it's just a park. So lucky residents, because not only they are near the church, if they are religious, and they are near the park. So Jensen Klint studied a lot of Danish traditional churches in the Zealand area. It's an area outside Copenhagen, and most of them has those gabled steps, but instead of having just one, normally it's just one, he introduced two more. And if you notice, it has a lot of vertical elements that leads your eyes towards the sky or towards the heaven, and that's what a Gothic church would actually have, and that's what you have with the Gothic churches normally. So you notice it has a lot of vertical elements that leads your eyes to the skies or towards the heavens, and that's very typical of Gothic churches. And then you can see the step character, or the step profile happening. So it's a combination of a brick expressionist architecture and Gothic architecture, obviously. So let's go around the building first, so that you have an idea. And I'm not sure of my orientation, but the west facade, according to them, resembles a church organ, and this might be it. So typical church. So it's really a massive building around this area, and like I said, they decided to build this to complement this building. That's why it shares the same building material. But it's also impressive that they use 5 million bricks, yellow bricks. It's a typical Danish building material for this building. Right now, maybe you're wondering, it's an old building, why would they bring you here? But before we get to that, let's enjoy the view of the exterior and the surroundings. So obviously this is the altar area, and then you have some wooden doors, and so you have the typical brick, and then mostly are glazing. So you have the buttresses. So you have the buttresses on this area. So that's typical of Gothic architecture or Gothic churches. And then again, we have these apartments around it, and they allow parking around it. So I have a feeling, because it looks identical, and I wonder where the church organ is. Maybe the west facade is the facade itself, the front side of the building already. I'm not sure. So I'm not normally when I visit historical buildings, it's with a guided tour, but this one just somewhat attracted me even without planning coming here yesterday, and then when I entered the church, I said to myself, you know, I have to have photos inside. And the sun is showing up. And right now you cannot see the interior because of the glazing. It feels dark, and of course the bricks are already aging. That's why it doesn't look that yellowish anymore. But obviously you can see it from the neighboring buildings, the yellow color somehow. So I will keep quiet, and I'll probably just talk about it as a voiceover, because we are entering the church, and people might be praying, or there might be a ceremony. Okay. Okay. Look at that, guys. It's just so dramatic. So I guess there's no entrance fee. For me, this was sublime, just sublime. I know it's a combination of Gothic architecture and brick expressionist, but it has that sense of minimalism because you don't have a lot of ornamentation. And just basically left the essence of Gothic architecture with its verticality. If I'm not mistaken, this is 22-meter high. Just impressive, right? And then even the use of wood is very consistent. Very consistent. Like the church, the chair material. So everyone is welcome to visit this place. You don't have to pay anything. You just need to be respectful if there are people praying. So these are the yellow bricks. Since this is an interior space, somehow the condition of the bricks are still good, and you can see the yellowish color of it. So we are at the altar area. So can you imagine if there's a strong sunlight coming from the windows? It will be more sublime and surreal. So even if you have traditional church chairs, even if you have traditional chairs, all together it just works well with the palette of this building. Building built in 1926, and yet it has the minimalist sensibilities. So you have the groin bolts, again, very Gothic, and then the pointed arches as well. Oh, I really love this material. When you think of yellow, it might sound too when you think of yellow, you think of loud colors, but this one is just, it has the right subdued tone. And the church organ also has a very modern design sensibilities, if I might say, with, I would think, has a very interesting joinery. Maybe somewhere there's a mortise and tenon. I wouldn't know, but there are plates that join the wood together. So the way it was assembled is also expressed. That's why you don't just see a clean vertical column. You also have these to join them. So this is the church organ. And I wonder what this space is about. But I remember if this is a castle, this is the throne room. You have some nobles standing there. I don't know with the church. Just beautiful. Like the play of light, how this is layered. So there's a nave and there's an aisle. Again, when you look at the plan, it's very Gothic. So there's another organ here. Even the details are so inspiring. I have a feeling that Lord of the Rings, Elven Kingdoms were inspired by the architecture of this place. So I guess even the flooring is yellow bricks. So I've never been impressed over a church design in the 1920s. I would expect that this will be an impressive interior, and the outside is, of course, feels a bit old, but unless you study the history of the architecture of this building, you would understand better. But nobody can deny how sublime the interior experience of this building is. So if these are original lamp fixtures, pendant lights, I mean, it still has that modern sensibility. I'm not so sure because it looks pretty modern to me. So there's a reception area, but you have to pay for the materials available here. They even have cut out models for 50 crowns or 7 euros. And in the church detail, like the door feels modern, and the detailing of the doorknobs and the fixtures are sort of traditional. So this guy really studied the architecture and created his own interpretation. Normally, I'm not a fan of combining styles, but this one really works well. Maybe because it has that modern sensibilities. Okay. doors are heavy. So I guess that's it. So I really made a stop here as a detour before going to the airport, and I'm risking missing the flight. So I really made an effort. So I guess that's it. So I really made an effort to come here just to show you how impressive the interior of this building is. So I am heading to the airport, and I hope that we'll have another set of tours of interesting buildings. And thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again.